Mid-2000s company-issued cell phone malicious compliance. I work in IT. Some are surprised that I tended to shun cell phones for most of my career. I didn't get one until about 2013, but a big part of the reason was that I knew that. Working in IT, if I had one, my employer would expect me to be on call basically 24/7 with no additional pay or anything. There was still is a social expectation that you answer your phone, or at least reply via SMS/TXT, no matter where you are or what you're doing. Out on a nice date? Too bad, boss is calling. Dinner with the spouse? Too bad, boss is calling. Driving your kids to some important medical thing? Too bad, boss is calling. If, when you are quick on answering calls/messages, it's always a talking to the next day at the office, despite the fact that 99% of your job can be done remotely, but that's another topic. Always been this way for IT staff, won't ever change. So, early in my career, around 2005-ish, I worked at an SMB of around 50 people. Help desk and network admin, working for an IT manager who had no real technical skills to speak of, didn't understand IP addresses, how or why different versions of MS Office have slight variations in the user interface, didn't understand how FlexLM floating license checkouts work, etc., but was good with crystal reports, so they were the IT manager and I was the flunky. This person spent about 80% of their time micromanaging my time and making sure I wasn't idle for so much as 5 minutes of my day. At one point, a person in another department who was working late had some trivial nonsense problem with Microsoft Excel that absolutely 100% could have waited until the next morning to resolve, but was annoyed that the IT manager was beyond clueless to solve his issue at 7:45 p.m. and the regular helpdesk/network admin guy didn't have a cell phone he could call for off-hours support. So he complained. He complained the next morning by storming into the IT office and berating us, the IT manager and I, about how unacceptable the situation was, and then sent a 5-page follow-up email CC to half the company, including the entire executive staff, about how intolerable it was that his dumb pivot table crap didn't get resolved in the late evening. So a couple of days later, I get pulled into a meeting with the IT manager and the HR lady. Reading the room, it felt like I was about to get fired or something, not for nothing, but I was quite good at my job, and when I eventually quit a couple of years after all this, it took them over a year to find a replacement, but it was far worse. They wanted me to get a cell phone. I politely declined, which they were prepared for as they told me the company would pay for me to get a phone. I asked if I was going to get any kind of salary increase if I was going to be expected to actually answer it. My original employment agreement didn't include any on-call stipulations, and was told there wasn't any money in the budget for that, a blatant lie. The CEO sent us the quarterly earnings every quarter. So I said that I'd take a company-issued cell phone, and I'd even answer it after hours without demanding more pay, on one condition. I got to pick the phone and the carrier. They were delighted, agreed in writing, and were almost giddy as I got up and left the room. I found a Motorola Razr, at the time, a new and very expensive phone, from NTT Docomo, a Japanese phone company, that had the right kind of compatibility to work on the North American cell phone network, but retained a Japanese phone number and had an international roaming plan. I went out of my way to find the worst possible plan, and calling the phone would have incurred two-way international long-distance calling, plus the per-minute international roaming fees and all that, and based on some quick math it would have cost them over $5 per minute in total to call me. A day or two after the meeting with my boss and the HR lady, I requested the follow-up and presented the phone and plan I had picked out. It was clear from the body language that they couldn't tell if I was kidding or not. The HR lady finally realized I was dead serious, and asked why I picked something so expensive. I said with complete honesty, I find it almost offensive that you want me to be theoretically on call for an unlimited amount of time outside of the office, potentially disrupting literally everything I do outside of work hours, but weren't willing to offer me even 1 penny in compensation. Well, if someone wants to call me for support after hours, somebody somewhere is going to pay for that call. One way or another. They thanked me, said they'd get back to me about it later. The topic of me getting a company cell phone was never brought up again.